Welcome to the Angus Conversation. I am Mark McCully, Chief Executive Officer of the American Angus Association, and I'm running solo. I am without my normal co-host, Miss Miranda Ryman, is out enjoying new baby Lila Jean. And so we send all our best out to Miranda. We miss her and can't wait to meet Lila in person. But so I'm running solo, but I've got four guys here to carry on what I know will be a loaded conversation of great information. This is really a special episode as we come off the September board meeting, and we've been busy. You guys have been busy. I don't have my total hour count, but in committee meetings leading up to board meetings, we were somewhere around 15 hours of virtual committee meetings. We started here Monday, at 1 o'clock, and we ended at noon on Thursday. And so I don't know how many more hours that is, but it's a lot, guys. It's a lot.
It's plenty.
And I guess I just want our members to know the amount of time and dedication that you guys give this organization, and the amount of hours and in some really great conversations over. We're a pretty big organization with lots of moving pieces and parts, so we had lots of things to cover. And you guys, again, kudos to the whole board for sticking with a really, really long couple weeks of lots of things. So let's get at some of those things. But first, I want to introduce those guys around the table. Mr. Jonathan Perry, Chairman of the Board.
Thank you, Mark. While you're quite capable of handling most things, I'm not real sure you can cover for Miranda, but
I am certain
we'll do
I
our
cannot.
best today, I promise.
Bear with us. So absolutely. Great. Well, great to have you.
Great week.
Next to you, Mr. Darrell Stevenson, our current treasurer of the board.
Mark, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And I will reemphasize, it's been a big week. We got a lot of things going on.
Yeah. Across the table, Jim Brinkley, currently serving as our vice chairman. Jim?
Mark, thank you very much for having me, and appreciate it. Long week, but accomplished a lot, so appreciate it.
Awesome. And from the great state of Oklahoma, Mark Johnson. We're getting to be about a wrap on your first year on the board. And so I think first time joining us on the podcast after a board meeting.
Thank you, Mark. Good to be here. And it's been a good 2 weeks. We had the junior board meetings the week prior. Been very productive.
That's right. Should mention you serve as the junior board, one of the junior board advisors, which meant you were in here. You had extra hours into your duties over the last 3 weeks. You've been here 2 weeks in a row. So I know your guidance and working with those juniors. What an outstanding junior board we have, and I know they take their role very seriously. And you being there as an advisor to help bounce some things off of them and be there for them is super valuable. So thanks for doing that.
Good to be here.
Awesome. Well, maybe let's just, it's hard not to get together and want to talk about the markets.
It's pretty good right now, Mark. I don't care what size calf you're trying to sell at this moment. He's worth more than you've ever seen. It's amazing. And the demand for registered Angus sired calves through the roof. Angus Link program is making hay for our commercial customers, and the fact that they're Angus sire verified and have some metrics with them through that Angus Link scorecard, it's really paying dividends as well.
You can't deny that one of the high point reports for the entire week had to be Troy Marshall commercial programs with Angus Link and the successes of those summer video sales. I mean, to me, it's been absolutely astounding. I mean, we're talking big 100, 200,000 head sales, and we have 10 to 12 to 14% of those offerings with our Angus verified or GMS scores. It's just completely impressive. But there was two statistics that I think everybody needs to take away, and that is in this fiscal year 25, for the first time, we will sell our 1 millionth head of cattle through the Angus Link program. There was a time a few years ago that might have seemed out of reach, but to me that's just completely impressive. And the other metric, which is quite measurable, is we have validated proof that those cattle that have been enrolled over the years, that we will surpass our $100 million worth of premiums back to those loyal producers that are using the program. So I think two big high points to get the week started off.
Yeah, really exciting stuff. And we look at the cow inventory in the United States right now. It looks like these markets are going to be around for a while.
Yeah.
Well, for sure. And Darrell talked briefly about the Angus Link enrollment program, moving maybe a step further bull sales in California. I mean, that season's kicked off, and wow, it's the demand for registered Angus bulls in California has never been better.
Amazing.
And you know, I really feel that coming down the pike, within the next year, I mean, everyone that's having bull sales will see record times.
Yeah, we
Very
looked at-
exciting.
We were doing just comparisons of, reported sales. Of course, that's not all registered sales, but reported sales on the fiscal year, so October through August. And the averages are up, I think, 1,000 plus on bulls and more than that on females. But $100 million more in gross reported sales of registered seed stock year over year. I mean, you think about that money all flowing back into our members. That's some pretty incredible demand out there, and I think it's got a spring in most people's step. You go to these video sales and these registered sales, it's pretty good times. It's pretty good times.
Yeah. And only gonna get better.
Absolutely.
We still have our work cut out as breeders, though. I think that there's a significant portion of the commercial industry. If you're a first-time listener, reach out and get engaged and learn more about the Angus Link program, because I think there is even that much more value to capture. And reach out to your regional manager, your seed stock provider, and we'll get this thing moving in the right direction for you.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
So guys, since switching topics here, since we were together last in Nashville, obviously there's been a lot of conversations that I know you guys have been a part of since then around the methane research and that whole project. JP, I look across the table. I know well that you have spent a lot of hours on phone reaching out to members, responding to members' phone calls, text messages, any emails that we've gotten. And so maybe talk about some of those conversations and maybe some of the things that we continue to hear and work towards.
Yeah, Mark, you realize through a lot of conversations that members have some concerns, and we've tried to listen and hear those concerns. We spent the week addressing some of those things that we've heard as concerns. We didn't just hunker down and disappear for the last 60 days. I mean, in between board meetings, we do go home and we do take care of cattle and families and do some things in between. But I promise you, it was front and center, and we've continued to engage in it. We spent the week kind of tearing it apart and seeing how we could do a better job of member outreach, do a better job of listening to membership's concerns, and finding channels that, while we feel like we put quite a bit of stuff out there, we got a lot of channels that we believe we're getting information out on, but obviously those conversations have proven that maybe we still need to evaluate and find better ways. And so a lot of this week was definitely spent not only discussing the methane research project, but member outreach and how to get that input from the membership and bring it into this building and bring it into our board and make sure that those concerns and those ideas and inputs are heard.
And JP, I was actually quite pleased. We have policy that if a member wants input or wants time for presentation, we allocated that, and we did have a member visit, and to me it was critically important to hear that input, that feedback, and his concerns. I think all strong for consideration, and I want not only that individual but everybody else to realize that we are open for this communication, because I think it's a two-way street here. So that feedback is critically important for everything that we do under one entity, every entity and every committee as well moving forward.
Sure, and I mean, it just, it's an ongoing process that we have to realize that the diversity in our membership is huge. 22,000 members, and every one of them has a different desire or need or want out of our association, and the challenge is only going to grow as we go forward. How do we satisfy every one of those members' needs and wants and desires? And that is, it's something we've got to accomplish. I mean, we've got to stay relevant as an association, and if we don't figure out a way to supply those needs and satisfy them, I mean, we'll struggle to exist.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things, as you guys talked about and relayed some of your conversations, I know conversations I've had, in this day and age, getting all of the information out is always hard, right? And sometimes when there's information that gets out in social media circles that you've got to kind of try to get corrected or redirected at times. It's just hard. But we've worked hard at getting all of that out on our website. We've got articles in the Angus Journal that updates membership, that they can get into the details of what the research project is. We've got time dedicated at convention for those that are there that will be able to come here and hear directly from you guys around even the decision-making process. Again, realizing not everybody has, some people have totally tuned in through all this. Some are maybe new to the topic and wanting to get fully informed and sure want to make every effort we can to make sure our members have all of the pieces of information that they need.
Yeah, Mark, through a lot of the phone calls, as you just referenced, we got members that are very plugged into it, members that are just now calling and saying, hey, what's this all about? What am I hearing? And obviously the narrative on Facebook and social media got pretty rampant and pretty big and large and it's sometimes pretty fairy tale and fantastic. But, the facts are the facts, and we gladly will be transparent. We've heard that word over and over and over again, and I promise you, I have fielded call after call after call and will gladly field more. I think we have done a very good job of trying to get those facts out and get them out. And as we go into convention, absolutely, we've made it a big part of the focus of convention that we have some sessions there that we can spell out everything from the process to what's involved in the research, what the deliverables are for the American Angus Association, AGI, all the things that may be in question. We want to be absolutely out front and put it all out there. So we've directed staff and we've directed the organization of the convention coming in that's going to be a big part of what we do while we're there.
Make sure everyone has their questions answered.
And I believe there's been a lot of great opportunities to visit with membership that are curious about what we're doing through AGI and research projects, and that really our feedback from our survey. Membership identifies research and learning more about our breed and what they're capable of doing is one of our two big priorities. And that opportunity to have the conversation, talk about this particular project, I think has been beneficial to us.
I think that came up a lot throughout this week, and definitely in conversations that we have with members. And we'll maybe get into we'll get into this membership survey data a little bit, because I do think the timing of it was really perfect, and it was as a part of our strategic planning process, a membership survey that went out in April and closed in June, and we'll be putting more information out. We actually just did a video on this that'll be out on the website here pretty shortly that you can watch through. But you guys as board members kind of got your first look at a lot of this data. We had about 1,200 members that filled out this survey. We had a nice mix of folks that had of different demographics, right? They've been in the business different lengths of time, and
that part was amazing.
It was the big takeaway for me, and the stat was this, guys. What we heard was 43% of those taking our membership survey had been with us for 20 plus years, had been members for 20 plus years, but 23% had been members for less than 5 years.
Yeah, we referenced it. I've been on this board longer than most of those guys have been in business. So, we lose sight of the fact that we think and we assume that those members know everything that we know, and that they're exposed to the
Their
same things
right?
that the rest of us. And so, it's a pretty good eye opener that maybe we go back and we revisit some of these topics on a more regular basis. Maybe we don't just assume that every member knows every program and everything that we have out there,
I'll just reemphasize what you just said. That was a surprise to me. And we heard that, and that's the value of these surveys, is that with such a young portion of our membership in this response, that I do think that it is our duty and responsibility to go back and revisit a lot of our policies within the entities on why we do what we do, and a lot of these things were established several years ago, 10 or 20 decades ago, that that there needs to be an explanation of why an entity or a committee is doing what we're doing, so that everybody has a clear understanding of the end goal objectives.
I think one of those things was AGI, and I think that was a topic. Probably, we found an article from that was in the December 07 Angus Journal that walked out when Angus Genetics Incorporated was first announced to the membership. It was here's what AGI is, and it was a question and answer with the board at the time, and what the entity was set up to do. And I think for maybe some of us who've been around for a while, we just assume everybody kind of knows that, but not the case.
Yeah, and in an effort to kind of clarify some of those policies from telephone calls and questions we'd had, I asked Mark to go back and find what policy we had in place where AGI was concerned, what the governance between AAA and AGI were, and how it was spelled out. And pretty amazing that it goes all the way back to 2007. And so, we did spend some time looking at that, discussing that,
You touched on it about membership, not some of them's young, some younger members, some recent 5-year, 7-year. Well, I've been a member for 30 years, and whenever I ran for the board, I had no idea what went on in that boardroom. I mean, and
we all learned quite a bit when we come in.
I'm going to tell you something. It was shell shocking for me.
Yeah.
It just incredible what goes on in that boardroom, and how thorough the discussions are, how membership sensitive that board is. It was very, very, very impressive to me. My first year on the board, and I've been there 7. It was a learning curve, and I had a lot more respect for those board members sitting there, dedicating their time and discussing things in such great detail.
It's pretty obvious that we need to have improved outreach on drawing these lines and explaining what you're referencing, and that's part of what I would call the membership outreach. I mean, it's got to be improved, and we've heard that, and it's going to get done.
As several around this table have pointed out, I am a rookie board member, and I have been astounded in the last 9-10 months the services that are provided through the association and its entities on behalf of breeders and the breed. So I echo Jim's comments. There's a lot going on and a lot available to us.
I think on the Mark, you mentioned the membership survey. This was the first time we laid eyes on it, and there's just a lot of interesting line items there, and I'm excited to actually get that out to the membership side so they can actually see where these responses are at. And I think that'll actually be scheduled maybe for a visit, even actually at the annual meeting, so that we can get even further input, because this is very valid for us as a board to gain direction from. So if anybody's got questions in the meantime, I mean, speak to you or wait for annual meeting for that. So I think it's exciting stuff.
Well, and in the survey, it things, and I won't get through all of it by any stretch, but it identified what some of the top 5 services are most valued services, and it's we see pedigree. Obviously, the pedigree in the breed registry is number 1. We all know that and assume that, but then very quickly, genetic evaluation selection tools is number 2. Genomic tests for registered or for seed stock was 3. Our overall member services and then AHIR kind of rounded out the top 5. But it's always important to note there was like a list of 25 things that folks had selected as things they find most valuable and why they are a member of this association, from obviously shows and junior programs and all of the other, to your point, Mark, all of the other services and things. So, and then we asked for opportunities of, and cow selection tools, more selection tools for building a better cow was the number 1 thing we got told. And then growth in market share was the second biggest opportunity. The growth in prime and CAB where the premium beef markets was 3. Selection for health traits was identified as number 4 as an opportunity, is what our breeders told us.
Yep.
At kind of an uncharted territory a little bit, to be very honest. We've done a little in that realm, but not much. And then CAB premiums was top 5. But our membership is also pretty optimistic because they listed a whole bunch of stuff under opportunities.
Just another reminder of the diversity in our membership and how many different things that our members ask for that are offered. And another thing that kind of tickles me is it always comes back to the cow. Maternal. The number one thing that they want us to do is to continue to find ways to describe that mother cow and her viability and how to make her stay where she is and produce longer and get better.
Well, as you know, I mean, the mama cow is what keeps us in business.
Yeah.
And it keeps our customers in business, and we have to be very cognizant of that.
We asked too about priorities, and this became, I think, something that we've looked at as staff, and I know as board members, referring to these priorities as where does our membership want us to put the most emphasis moving forward over the next 3 to 5 years. And that research was mentioned earlier as was number 2, just closely behind marketing assistance, right? And that probably means some different things to different people. Research, I'm sure, means some different, when they check that box, I'm sure folks answered that a little bit different. So those are all things we need to get more feedback on, right? And that's things we're planning to do at convention. We're details to still be sorted out, but we're planning a general session where we'll do some polling of the members on some of these topics to help get a little bit more insight into where our membership wants us to go and where to prioritize. But then also we hear about more selection tools, producer education, CAB promotion, all those other things that kind of round out that top 5. But again, a very diverse member. But and we'll continue to dig in. I want them. These surveys are great. You got to always take them for what they are.
Sure.
We're continuing to look at how do we get more information out to our membership, but maybe more importantly, how do we get more information back from our membership? And they identified lots of different ways that. We have from podcasts, but Angus Journal Print was Miss Julie Mays here as running the show here, and editor of Angus Journal is still the number one thing our members told us that they want to get their Angus information from. And so we'll continue to, that is our flagship publication. I continue to say that if you're a registered Angus breeder not taking the Angus Journal, you're at risk of missing some information because we put it in the Angus Journal, and it's such a great piece of information or a publication that we really lean heavy on. But we've got lots of other opportunities like podcasts and social media and all sorts of other places, login and emails and things that we'll continue to invest in. It moved into some. We spent probably more time this meeting in some long-range planning discussions. It just kind of the way it timed up. We did some long-range planning and the bigger, what I can call the Angus long-range objectives, and I hope folks got a chance to look at that draft. We put it out there ahead of time in the meeting. It's something we've been talking about for quite a while. And it's not drastically different than the long range objectives that we've identified in 20 and then refreshed in 22. But I think they're super important to have out there. It's a way for board members to be very clear of where they want us as staff to put our priorities. I think it's equally as important for members to understand in the spirit of transparency, have input on what our priorities should be and the things we're working towards. And so we spent quite a bit of time, and you guys as a board approved the long-range objectives that we had drafted. So members will be seeing more from that. The draft, again, we had put out in the agenda highlights letter. We'll also be doing a video on that, so be watching kind of your member center and things. I'm going to produce a video that kind of walks through what those long-range objectives are, and these things aren't set in stone. These things are not cast at, okay, this is exactly what we're doing for the next 3 to 5 years. This is just general direction, and we need input on how we accomplish these objectives, and I know you as a board continue to look for that input.
Mark, I want to comment on that, and I said this in the board meeting earlier today. There's 17 of us on this board. We meet 4 or 5 times a year. we leave this building, we go home, we run our family's operations, we get back to our business at hand. We stay engaged, we stay involved, but I don't think membership understands how critical these long-range plans and these strategic plans are. You know, we get those phone calls and they say, well, the board should run directives, not the staff. Well, the staff has to have a directive when we leave here. You know, we walk out of this building today, we may not be back for 2 months. And I think it's critical that staff has these plans in place that are directives from the board, that are directives from the membership feedback that we've received. And I think that is what, you know, these dedicated people in this building, in this association, get up and operate and charge themselves with every day by a plan that we've laid in place. And so I think it's very important that we put time and we put effort and we put lots of continuity and understanding into these.
Well said, JP.
Couldn't agree more.
Important.
And it's critically important to understand that the staff needs these parameters. They need these directives, and it is up to the discretion of the board when we leave here. It seems like we might spend a lot of time strategic planning or long-range planning, but you can't keep these folks that are working for us every single day head in the right direction unless they've got these strategic plans laid out in front of them.
And I always think, you know, as you think about the role of a board, obviously you're here to govern in today, right, and what we're dealing with today. But I think challenge of a board and what a membership I think expects of a board is to also be looking down the road. And to make sure, and I think it was repeated in the boardroom a time or two, is your job is to make sure that we're in business 3 and 5 and 10 and 20 years from now. And so as best we can, we try to anticipate some of these changes or and plan accordingly.
You know, and that back to that same train of thought. I mean, we have a talented team of professionals assembled in this association, and it's their job to, while we're back home keeping the fires burning and we're tending cattle, raising the next calf crop, you know, doing the things that keep us in business. I mean, their charge is to know what's out ahead of us, you know, advise us of what's coming, what do we need to be engaged in, and I think, you know, as a board, we charge them with that. That is something we expect out of them. So
Good stuff. Well, I know as staff we value those plans, and I know we certainly, as you as board and us as staff, always want input into them. I guess I'm like a fifth of the way down my list of things, and so we better keep making hay here. No, this is but it's such a it was
we covered a lot this week.
We covered a lot, and in the committee meetings leading in. But you know, this time of year, as folks I think know that we end our fiscal year here in the end of this month in September and start a new one in October. So this is a really important meeting as we come in and forecast how things are going to end. Where, you know, one of our core metrics from an association standpoint are registrations, and while the month is not complete here in September, it looks like we will end with this year up probably about 5,000 registrations, somewhere around in there. So going to be up pretty nicely in registrations. But as you look, I guess, guys, across the organization and we approved budgets, guys spent a lot of time in the numbers and making sure we got our money allocated in the right spots.
Yeah, I think kudos to the staff in this building. I think in all the years I've been on this board, we're probably in as positive a spot across every entity and every organization inside of AAA as far as being very responsible and fiscal with the money. And we're in a good spot. We've ended the year positive in every entity. Black ink. And we've passed budgets that are positive bottom lines that lay out some pretty good guidelines going forward through the next year. But it's nice to see how frugal you guys are with our money and how fiscally responsible. Do what now?
I'm glad you didn't say cheap.
No, I didn't say cheap, but I mean,
I've been called cheap before.
There's a lot of attention put to it, and I appreciate it.
The financial report was quite positive. JP just mentioned our very healthy financial status in every entity across the board. We, of course, touch on current financials, look at year-end projections, and then this is the meeting that we actually really study and analyze the fiscal year 26 budgeting. And I'll reemphasize, I do believe that this team that we have here has proven to be incredibly fiscally responsible. And by every measurable metric in this arena, I can call it a success. So congratulations to Mark and Kenny and Tara and the whole team overseeing that.
Good stuff. You know, one of the things we tend to balance or look at our budgets here, and I think it's important for members to know, we do have a large reserves and investment reserves, and a big chunk of those reserves are restricted. And I know sometimes members look at our assets and go, what are we doing here, right? And so I'd encourage members, if you have questions, we put those things out in our annual report, in our financial statements on the website, but I'd encourage you to visit with anyone about those. There are, that balance sheet has a lot of that investment portfolio has a lot of restricted money in there that are there for specific things, scholarships, and a big chunk of that is around the foundation and such. But at the same time, when we look at budgets, we also tend to we use some of that interest income and investment income to balance budgets, but we also really focus on the operations, right? We try not to lean on that too hard because you never know from year to year how those investments are going to do. So that's been the philosophy we've been charged with.
The nice thing about those reserves, Mark, is when we do find something that's truly an investment for the membership, we have the wherewithal to go and at it. We have the wherewithal and the reserves to do those things that give us some flexibility.
And that way we're prepared for the lean years, because that will happen.
It will happen again, I promise.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, gosh, thinking about convention, I know we talked through kind of the schedule of events, and got you guys, we went through all that, got some feedback there. We approved all of the documents around the convention, the annual meeting and such. We're going to be getting more of that information out to members and those come into the conference. And again, we've mentioned some of these videos we've been putting out. So lots of things I think that we've invested in and planning for here over the next couple months to keep our members informed of everything, all the good stuff going on. We did, in some other association topics in the Breed Improvement Committee, I know one of the things was, as a Breed Improvement Committee looked and talked about, and you later as a full board, feedback on some of the new EPDs that are out there that were released in May with functional longevity and teat and udder and those inclusions into $M. And I know you guys continue to gather feedback from breeders.
Yeah, feedback has been good. Mixed reviews, obviously. I think the big thing to understand is that our team is building these tools with the data that we as members send to them. And so, they have to have a starting point. They have to have a spot to begin with, and they utilize what data we've sent them. But if we want this data we want these tools to be better, we've got to continue to send more data and update those. If the numbers don't match your herd or your animals, are you sending phenotypes in? Are you doing what you need to do to make sure that you help make that data accurate?
Yeah, the bigger the database gets, the more phenotypes we collect, and genomics on top of that.
Yeah.
The more accurate and the more powerful tool of prediction those are going to be.
Yeah, I still think that it's imperative that we are vocal about the fact that the phenotypes still drive the EPDs and the genomics. The genomics are created off the phenotypes, and it starts with phenotypes.
You touched on the new EPDs. There's going to be some variance in it.
Yeah.
When birth weight and weaning weight come out years and years ago, it wasn't near as accurate as it is today because it didn't have the phenotype data to drive it.
Mm-hmm.
So give this a little time. Turn in your data, and it'll become more and more accurate.
And I think it's important to note and to pay attention to what the accuracy level of those tools are at this point.
Absolutely.
They are infantile, they are just beginning, and the accuracy level is very low. And as time goes by, if the system works right, we keep feeding phenotypes to it, accuracy level will go up, and the numbers will become more accurate and definitely directionally send us where we need to go.
Kind of speaking of accuracy, one of the topics on here was some discussion that started in breed improvement as well, was we do have some cases of non-genomically tested animals where there will be some missing spots on some component traits of of EPDs that go into the indexes, and yet those indexes are still produced. And so continuing to look at that and research that, and that was really the direction you guys gave us as a board, is to go back and continue to look at that, bring some options forward, study it, and most definitely continue to have discussions around those topics, and just in general, right? How do we make these indexes as good as they can be, and knowing that and making sure that our commercial producers and our breeders are as confident in those tools as they can be. Gosh, one of the topics was a mating tool, and this was a request, something we've gotten actually over the years. I think we've heard from breeders. We do offer, and by mating tool, basically think about it as a kind of a calculator that you could enter in your cows and a handful of potential sires, and it would calculate those parental average EPDs for you. We've had that request. It actually sits in our AIMS program. It is an option there. The request was some time to look at putting that behind login for all breeders. And so Esther Tarpoff, as Director of Performance Programs, brought some concepts to the committee and to the board to consider, and you guys gave us direction to kind of keep advancing in that direction.
You know, and Mark, that tool's put in place not as a tool to give people a calculator that they can just, boldly add numbers and create EPDs. I mean, our idea is that calculator gives a breeder the ability to mate animals and see, okay, where am I going in the positive direction, and in the adverse effect, where am I creating deficiencies, and where am I getting out of bounds with things. And so hopefully, that gives them a little easier way.
It's a tool if somebody wants. And
yep.
It's also going to have an inbreeding coefficient right in there.
Yep.
We know that inbreeding coefficient calculator is something that's on our website today, and we know members use. It's a little more of a simple tool. You just put a sire and a dam, and it plugs that number. This would allow you to maybe populate those maybe make that whole process a little easier if that's something you're wanting to watch and pay attention to.
And to reemphasize, this was from membership request. This is a direct response to not just one, but several members coming back with this request, and in trying to achieve that, I think that we might be moving in the right direction for a need or a service that that portion of the membership is interested in.
We had some discussion around our genomic ownership policy. I think from time to time it's always good. We have policies. This particular policy, if I remember correct, was maybe
2009.
2009, I believe, is where it's been in place. There's been a little confusion, I think, out there, understandably so. It's a policy that you click on when you make an order through AGI, but ultimately it's the American Angus Association's policy around DNA ownership of that information, as well as the any resulting remaining sample that may be left. And so I think folks that have been have ordered a genomic test have looked at that click wrap. We call it a click wrap agreement, or that agreement. So we went back through that and had it out and for you guys to review and talk about. We also want to point you to the Levi Landers and his membership tips article that went in the September Angus Journal. Is a really, really good piece that outlines what the policy is and some of the benefits of the policy and some of the wisdom that the board back in 2009 had when they put that policy in place. One of those things kind of come into fruition, and you guys heard about, was our ability to do a parent discovery pipeline. That is a benefit of having ownership of that DNA.
Yeah, without that DNA in house, that parentage pipeline would have never been able to create. Many of us call in all the time, and we have parentage issues, and they work with us back and forth trying to figure it out. If they didn't have access to that DNA, there's no way they could help us with that process without sending multiple samples back in and trying different things. And I think one of the things I want to point out here, Mark, that a lot of my conversations over the last 60 to 90 days where that DNA and that database is concerned, I think there is some misconception out there. That database is owned by the American Angus Association membership. It is not owned by AGI. It doesn't live in AGI. It lives in in the building. It lives in the membership, and it is totally owned by American Angus Association. So AGI utilizes that membership through a contract. They have definite requirements they have to meet and go through to use that membership owned database. Yep. And I think it's a good spot to clarify that right here.
Well, and I strongly encourage any of the listeners or members to actually go find the article that Mark just mentioned in the September Angus Journal. I thought Levi did an extraordinary job outlining the bullet points of that general policy that was created in 2009 and the wisdom of that leadership back then. This kind of pulls back to what we were talking about originally on the membership survey, and realization that we are working with, I'll label, younger breeders that have been with us less than 5 years. This policy was written 16 years ago, so it's good review, not only for some of us older breeders, but it gives credence to the next generation on why these policies were established. And I think that information was displayed perfectly in this article for why there is a value to the membership on AAA owning these profiles.
Sure, not just for parentage clarification, not for research, but think of it from a birth defect standpoint. We have a birth defect come in, and there's 46,000 of the members' cattle that are potentially affected by this new defect, whatever it may be, and through that database and through that stack of phenotypes that AAA has here in the building, we can sometimes clear one animal that may clear 40,000 potential carriers, and having access to it and having the ability to do that. Just imagine how many dollars that just saved 46,000 members when they didn't have to test those animals and clear them from a potential defect. I mean, there's multiple reasons, but those are some of the strong ones.
Mm-hmm. Well, it keeps us nimble.
Yeah.
The time as well as the financial factor.
Right.
Yeah, you can clear it up so much faster. I've talked to a former staff member. It hadn't been very long ago, and he alluded to the fact when we did have a genetic defect that they went to the archive and cleared up thousands of animals just within house.
From one
sample.
One sample. That's
yes.
Right. Yeah. One influential sire, one could change.
And as you mentioned, that was a huge savings to membership.
And we had this just not that long ago. Somebody had, for whatever reason, had been tested. They did a genomic test on an older bull. I think a bull back in the 60s, and when it was an M1 and some things, then it popped up on a lot of pedigrees, which we could very quickly clear those out and take that potential carrier off of those cattle very quickly. Without that, we're asking now members to go out and start retesting. Yeah, great examples of the vision behind and the wisdom behind that policy when it was put in place some time ago. And that parent discovery pipeline, that is something we kind of threw it out there. It's been in the works. You guys continue to have heard updates on that front. AGI is actually working with it right now, kind of is still in a testing pilot internal process, but the plan is hopefully by if we can get all the kinks and worked out of the system, not the science, but the system, that when come first of the calendar year, you may, as breeders, be able to use that pipeline where it will tell you basically through genomics, help you identify those parents. You're still going to be back on the breeder. We still want the breeder to then still will go in and agree that yes, those are in fact that is a mating that I made. That is we'll make sure we don't there could be a mixed up sample or something that could take us down the wrong path there. So that's one of the things we heard in that membership survey specifically around AGI was here, you guys know what these are, just tell us and then we'll confirm if that's in fact what they are. And that's ultimately what this parentage discovery pipeline will allow us to do.
I think it'll be a huge tool of convenience behind login that members can go in and resolve those issues relatively fast and get it done. It'll be a great service.
This was clearly a membership concern from the membership survey. We heard it, and I think this is going to ease up a lot of that data management from a member standpoint, but this is going to free up and make AGI customer service reps so much more efficient as well.
Yeah.
I'm actually quite excited for this to set up and start operating.
And we can put this over on GeneMax too, and so we can do that sire discovery for our commercial customers and make that an even easier process for them. Switching gears here a little bit, but this was a super busy summer from the last time we were together in June to today of all of the activities, and Caitlin and her team updated the great events that went on at the LEAD conference, and then of course there was this little event down in Tulsa, Mark, the National Junior Angus Show, and I know you guys kind of did a full recap of that event and ways maybe we could even get better.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to all the volunteers in Oklahoma that pitched in, made that such a great event. My neighbors, Jim and Janet Strait. It is a labor of love to put on a junior national, as we all know. And your staff here, Mark, Caitlin, her crew, that was a really great event. Having said that, we always look for ways to make them better. And so last week during the junior board meetings, very impressive 12-member junior board. I enjoyed that a great deal. And feedback we've got after the NJAS this year, we are looking at some things to elevate this junior experience even more. And whether it is potentially lowering our age that a Angus Junior could join, potentially expanding the age groups in the steer show or going to divisions there, potentially allowing siblings, children within a family to multi-own their show cattle. These are all things that we're taking a look at, we'll continue to take a look at, and try to bring to fruition in some form or another to improve upon that junior experience.
Yeah, Mark and Mark both, as we go forward, I think it's just imperative that we continue to invest in our youth. While junior shows and activities may not be an enormous part of our overall budget, I think it's one of the most important things we do every day. If we're not developing the young leaders to come back into our industry every day, we are sorely failing. And one of my greatest loves of this building is you walk through it and you deal with some of this staff and you realize that those are the very youngsters that you watched grow up through our junior program, go off to school, get an education, and come right back into the very world that built them. And if we're not continuing to invest in that and create those young leaders, we all know that there is no path forward. So let's please keep doing that.
Well, back to our survey, I think it was number 2 or number 3 risk was generational turnover and someone to hand off the reins, right? And so we talk about all the time. That's the on-ramp to our business, and many of us sitting around this table would say that's. I said myself, that was my on-ramp, and so we appreciate the openness, and I think important to remember. And I'm glad you pointed out, Mark, of the junior board, and that junior board. I mean, this is really something that they get asked, they get put back as their responsibilities too. Of what things do they see, and give them an opportunity to exercise their leadership and their vision, and obviously these are their peers of how we make that event better. So I know. Getting their feedback and input and insight on these things is paramount.
And there again, that's an area where we've heard some member input, some desires to look into how can we modernize without losing tradition. How can we bring some excitement and new waves to that activity, but not forget the tradition and the staple that's gotten us there.
And those members of the junior board take that seriously. It's impressive to watch them work. They're creative, they're energetic, and I'm deeply impressed with the thoughts that came out of that group.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we'll switch gears here a little. We move to the AGI board meeting, and we kind of touched on some AGI topics earlier, and I guess very specifically, spent quite a bit of time here, as I mentioned earlier, in the strategic planning process of AGI, and really getting back to that defining clarity of what you as board members want AGI to be. Again, reflecting on kind of what the initial vision for AGI was, but that was almost 20 years ago. So we're looking forward. Where do you want AGI to be for this organization? And so quite a bit of time spent around that particular topic.
Yeah, and I think it's very important that, especially in light of what we've been through in the last 75, 90 days. I mean, there are some misconceptions, some misunderstandings of maybe exactly where AGI lies, what AGI's charges are, and so I think we're in the middle of a pretty extensive strategic planning mission with AGI at this very moment. The desires are to build a set of guidelines and guardrails that they've asked for, that Kelly and her team have absolutely asked for. Tell us where you expect us to go. Tell us where you want us to engage. Tell us where you don't want us to engage. And I think, in response to a lot of the calls and questions, this strategic plan is going to be pretty detailed, and it's going to be put out in public and pretty accessible, so that nobody has a question about where those parameters are and what our charge is. And I'll give them credit. They are aggressive, and they are charged every day to move forward for us. But they want direction. They want clear direction as to where they need to go.
Where are their parameters?
Yeah.
They're asking.
Yeah.
No, it's really good, and I know some great work that they've been doing in different research fronts was one of the areas. I always tend to think of AGI. I always kind of call it our research and innovation entity, right? And
it is.
And so tackling some of this research. You guys got an update on the Heart Health Project. That's one of those. I think everyone, including Kelly and Pedro and those working on it, would like it to go faster. It is. They explain some of the difficulties with some of the data structures and things, and getting these phenotypic data into that. But showed some nice progress in that research project, and that's continuing to move along.
High priority.
Yep.
It is.
But there again, Kelly and her team, they want it to be accurate, and they want it to be right when it does come out.
Yep.
They want to be sure they've got it nailed down and exact before it goes out the door.
Yep.
There
will be, we're talking about some of these videos. It's one of the things that we've just, in an attempt to, again, communicate more, we're trying some video series. We mentioned the member survey. We're going to do a video series on the long-range objectives. I'm going to do a video series a little bit on some of this organizational governance, how our organizational is set up with the different entity structures and such. And then Kelly's planning on one as well, and just all of the research projects that we've got going on. And so stay tuned for that one. Gosh, they rolled through, I think there was a slide up there that had about 15
or
18
17 projects,
different research projects that we're involved in. I think one of the important parts that I know you guys had asked for was a review of kind of around data security. How do we do this when we have so many times, and I'm still old school enough, I think research, Mark, the Feedham Wayham stuff I did in grad school, and so much of what we're doing today in research is around data. And so Kelly and the team walked through our data security procedures of how we do this. We have a separate server that data sits on. We have data sharing agreements, access agreements. That data never leaves our internal servers that are physically here in the building. So walk through all of that with you guys, because I know sometimes those are questions that you get, and members want to make sure that that their data is secure, and that's something I know we take super seriously here.
And it's clear that data is not given, sold, bartered, trade. That data stays here. It remains in-house, and it is the holy grail. I mean, Mark doesn't even have access to it.
I can hardly get on my emails. Yes, we covered a lot of other things in AGI. Obviously, GeneMax, update on the GeneMax Advantage product and the growth that we've got seen there. Nice uptake through the summer of some new clients that have come to GeneMax and finding the value in that. You heard from a report of all the different genetic evaluation clients that AGI has, other breed associations here in the States, and even some international stuff that AGI is called upon to provide that genetic evaluation service for. And again, been in that business for a while, so you guys got an update of some of those different clients.
Great way to leverage our staff and our tools. I mean, create some income. I think it's a very good process.
Well, not only that, but truly the leadership. I mean, from the World Angus evaluation, they're expecting Kelly and team with AGI to be the leaders on these genetic evaluations.
And they are.
So it's just a tremendous honor for us and that team to be revered in that position.
Switching to Angus Foundation, we actually started the week with the Angus Foundation Board of Directors, and here again did some long range planning. Jacqueline did a nice job of outlining some vision and collecting the feedback we've heard from the foundation board and where we want the foundation to grow and where we want to put our emphasis. You know, one of the things we've continued to see growth is on the Fund the Future. We continue to see breeders grab a hold of that as a way to dedicate a lot in their sale and donate a percentage of the proceeds to the foundation. That's been fun to watch that continue to grow. We spent more time this meeting in particular. We had a request of a member to look at our scholarship process, and honestly, that's not something that the foundation board had done in a little while. Of kind of step back and take that thing from head to tail and really walk through every step of the way, how the applications are sent out, how the applications come in, how the judges' criteria, the score sheets you guys went through, the point assessments of each of the different categories, and really did a thorough review of that whole process to give us some feedback.
Yeah, Mark, we did a really deep dive into that, and you know, honestly, probably it was a little enlightening to some of us board members. I mean, that process is pretty anonymous, and we use outside people to come in and evaluate those scholarship applications, and I mean the process is pretty in depth. There's a pretty rigorous scoring system. It's pretty fair process.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I feel safe in saying we all felt really good about that process and the teeth and the integrity that went into it.
Yeah.
I think one of the learnings maybe that came through this, and one of the things we stepped back and around the communication of that, we talk about, 87, I may not have my number right, 87 scholarships awarded. One of the things is there's a number of scholarships that have some pretty restricted criteria. They need to be from the state of Alabama and studying ag economics or something, and that's a little, but there are some restrictions around there's maybe at times not as much subjectivity or discretion on some of those scholarships of who is eligible.
Yeah,
and that's probably something we can do a better job of communicating
right.
around.
The number of totally unrestricted scholarships was like in the 20 range. Is that right?
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
it's way less than you would think,
Yeah.
and most donors, when they put a scholarship in place, they have desires and areas that they would like to have that scholarship directed towards, and
certain state or
certain
major.
certain major, and so there are quite a bit of restrictions in those.
Just so membership knows that when they evaluate these scholarships, they do it individually, and they score them, and then they turn who the evaluator turns that in, and then they average who scored what, and it's not a collaboration of so many evaluators get their heads together and say, well, I think this one needs it, and this, they're all scored. So yes, individually scored.
Yep. Yeah, we saw the big giant spreadsheet that they use, and
It's-
then bring it back together.
It's pretty in depth.
Yep.
Very in depth.
Jim, switching over to Angus Media, you currently chair Angus Media. Had some great updates from the team there, and got Benji got to brag on the team of Angus Media, as well as the entire organization, association, communications team, certified Angus beef team. I think he said he had the hotel that they hosted the livestock LPC award recognition banquet at, got him. They wore out the carpet going up and down to get all the awards. We just have such a talented team there, and man, we're so fortunate to have them.
And Benji's a tremendous leader, and it's whenever he's got that staff that he has, that team, and I mean, to tell you, they are incredible, and we're very blessed as an association to have such a great team assembled, and to put together those catalogs and the articles, and I mean, I could go on and on and on, but on the whole media team we're blessed.
Absolutely. You know, and you think about back to where do we want, going back to the survey, and what did our members tell us that they wanted as the number one priority, a thing for us to focus on was marketing assistance, right?
Right.
And so we heard about all the great work and ideas they've got, even a new special issue, Angus Journal, the Bull Book that will be coming out as a new feature, a new resource for folks to help market their genetics. Also spent quite a bit of time talking about pasture to publish. They just finished some webinars that were well received and folks that were able to come in and learn more about. And then we had some discussions around our policy around printing of EPDs on embryos and pregnancies in our catalogs moving forward.
Yeah, and I'm happy to report that the association now will be calculating the parent averages on the frozen embryos and the pregnancies, and they'll be updated every week, just like
Be live.
yeah, they'll be live just like a live lot would be, but I mean it will be spelled out in there, parent averages.
Yeah.
So, but I do think it's a service to our members to be able to do that, and
And that was a request we'd been getting
You bet.
from as
Over
Several.
and over again.
Several.
more and more frozen genetic kind of sales, and our policy for what we would put in a book would be that we would print the sire and the dam, and as some would say, you're just forcing them to do the math on parental averages, and they're not live, and so this was a step that the board considered and a recommendation to make that change. And again, we still want to be super clear that these are parental average EPDs, and so we'll work really hard to make that known and make sure that that's as clearly communicated through the marketing process as we can. But a nice feature, and I think a nice advancement that you guys made the decision to move forward on.
And this derived from membership. I mean, membership requested this, and I just can't thank membership enough for if you need something we're not providing, if we can do it, we're going to try to help you.
Yeah, let us know, you bet. And they also shared, I thought, some pretty staggering statistics around our digital audience. 113 million audience touch points.
Say that
this
again.
year.
Say that again.
113 million.
Yeah.
That is staggering. Last year, I think Benji said it was 79 million. The growth
Yes.
has been that much in just 1 year.
Yes.
69 million page views on Angus.org.
Yeah.
If you want to get your cattle recognized and seen, there's a lot of Angus eyeballs on the Angus properties. That's
Absolutely.
pretty fun to watch that growth.
And please reach out to Benji and his team if you've got a sale coming up or you're thinking about doing a sale, they can help you immensely with the advertising, the catalog, all that stuff. So he's got a great team.
Absolutely. And then we'll wrap here with we got a pretty sizable update around certified Angus beef and the things going on there in Worcester with the team there. One of the things that we talked about, and I know it was on the agenda highlights, was a discussion that we've had for some time. Here again, a request of members around we've had the targeting the brand EPD recommendations out there for some time, and we've had a fair amount of requests of what about Prime? Prime is now this new target market that so many folks have set their eye on, and we heard that in our surveys as well. And could we ever develop a certified Angus beef Prime targeting certified Angus beef Prime kind of EPD requirement or recommendation? And so I think to be clear, this isn't something envisioned going on a paper, but more just something that we could add to some educational materials, maybe go in a sale catalog supplement. And so the team had done some research, gone into our data around what would that EPD recommendation kind of look like to target a high percentage of Prime, and you'll be seeing a little bit more on that. But again, not something that's going to be showing up on the pedigree on the paper.
Mark, that would have basically started when you were at CAB. I guess best practices is kind of where we started the targeting the brand logo, and how could we help commercial producers improve their genetics to a target to hit CAB, and I think this is very much something that we have continued to get get member desire and member request about is, help us with the metric. How do we raise the level from CAB to CAB Prime? And
Yep.
Obviously the pounds of gold in Prime are tremendous right now, and producers are wanting to figure out a way to hit those targets easier. So
Equally important would be my customers, your customers, most people's customers come to you and say, where do I need to be to have more prime? So how can, well, naturally you increase the marbling, but as far as a guideline, we didn't have that tool.
Right.
And I think it's important to be able to offer our commercial customers and a guideline to look at, and if they so choose to go that direction, that's their decision.
yeah.
But I think it's important to be able to offer it.
Yeah, and I think the feedback was they're going to continue to look at that and hone in on it and
Yep.
come back with some pretty good recommendations.
Yep. We just in general, we heard an update from the whole CAB team. Obviously, it's always on this side of the cattle side. We talk to cattle producers. These low supplies have built some pretty incredible prices out there. Well, on the other side of our business, it's built some pretty tight supplies. And when we're in, as that team has been out to grow sales in this time of tight supplies, they've had to. It's not been. It's been a fight, and they've been out there trying to fight for every pound. And excited to report. This will be the 10th year over 1 billion pounds. Of products sold. Going to have another really, really strong year. Probably going to be off just a nickel from last year.
Yeah, but last year was the largest year ever.
I think one of
Correct?
maybe second. I think we
Second?
still have to come back off of that peak off of COVID.
Yeah,
but we
so-
had March was our best month ever.
March was our best month ever. Yeah,
March we had four months that were record for that particular month. So the demand for the product is pretty incredible, and we heard some pretty good things there from the CAB team.
Simply astounding. Just 10 years, over 1 billion pounds in the tightest supply that we've been confronted with.
That's a
It's
machine.
simply amazing. And these guys, and the stress level for them trying to market this product, I mean, it's a challenge, and it's a huge compliment to our breeders, to this breed, and it's just such a grand thing for us to have them working on our behalf every day.
I think back to the survey, and I went back to the 2016 survey and looked at threats of what our members said then, and a very high level. One of the threats identified was competition from other proteins. I didn't even make like the top 7 or 8 today. And you think about the price spread that we're out there operating and competing against chicken and pork. That spread is enormous. And yet, we're not even considering it a challenge, because what we know is when we put a high-quality product out there like we have, the consumer, it's about price-value relationship, and that equation just continues to work, and we continue to see our licensees committed. Still the fastest-growing category in CAB this year will be CAB Prime again. CAB
Yeah,
Prime, the most expensive thing we have to sell.
They still speak with their wallet, and they still want quality.
Yeah.
The demand is growing.
So, guys, we probably better land this plane. We've been up in the
Yeah.
air here for a while, but
One thing we forgot, Mark, we did elect a new treasurer today. Our good friend Smitty Lamb from Georgia was elected treasurer of the board, so congratulations to him. We welcome him into the officer ranks, and that means I'm one step closer to getting out of y'all's way. So I have enjoyed it. But
So with you
Good-
saying
good
that,
catch.
this would be your last podcast, probably.
probably, I hope, maybe not.
we might let you join. In November we may let
Yeah.
you join as the outgoing. How about that?
Well, we'll do whatever we need to.
All right.
Whatever we need to.
All right.
But I do just want to thank the board and the crew and the staff. We put a lot of effort into the last 3 weeks, and very productive. I think we covered a lot of targets, a lot of subjects, but understand we still got ways to go, and we will leave here with those charges still in our mind, and you guys, we've left y'all a pretty good list of things to work on while we go back to the farm, and we appreciate everybody's hard work and effort.
It was a great week. Thanks, JP.
Well, guys, thank you for joining. Thank you for your immense amount of time here these last multiple weeks, and thanks for coming on and sharing some of the conversations that have taken place around the boardroom. And thanks for your leadership.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thanks for the
Appreciate
opportunity to be on the podcast.
We hope you've been enjoying this new season of the Angus Conversation. If you'd like more stories on producers just like you, be sure to subscribe to the monthly Angus Journal. There you'll get your regular dose of news and information in the breed, show results, important announcements, and of course all the latest genetics up for sale. Visit angusjournal.net and hit subscribe to learn more. This has been the Angus Conversation, an Angus Journal podcast.